Hello! Right, I'm Burt Green, this is the Burt Locker. If you don't know what this show is about, it's a sports show. I'm a stand-up comic who really enjoys watching various sports, mixed martial arts, NFL, NASCAR, bits, a little bit of boxing here and there. So I like to do these shows. This one is focused on MMA predominantly because we had a mixed martial arts fight on at the weekend, Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker 2. So we're starting off with UFC Vegas 84. Out of overall on the event, my picks are, I got a 7 out of 11, which it's not good, it's not terrible, 1 and 2. I got quite a lot of the results though. I mean, because there was one that I was quite sure on. You had Hawes versus Ferreira. I did say that Hawes, he's unfortunately, he's an excellent wrestler, but he's got a glass jaw, and he really doesn't take getting hit well. But he's fought a lot of real heavy hitters, Ferreira being one of them. Ferreira knocked him into another dimension. Those 2 punches on the ground were unnecessary, but super necessary. One thing that surprised me, I thought that the judo was much more effective for Ferreira than I thought. As I said, Hawes is an NCAA Division 1 wrestler, and he was throwing him around. I was surprised by that. I would like to see Ferreira fight another unranked guy, and then maybe we'll look at getting him into the rankings, but it was a good one, a really good knockout. Go back and watch it if you missed it. Jim Miller looked outstanding. I'm a huge fan of Jim Miller. Aren't we all fans of Jim Miller? How can you be into mixed martial arts and not be a fan of Jim Miller? I don't know one person that doesn't like him, rightfully so, because his personality is brilliant. He's just a blue collar, hard working guy who can fight. He really can. He's so fun to watch. He often gets the finish. He got the submission in this one. It was like a neck crank. He's just got such a good squeeze on him. His leg kicks looked outstanding. His striking looked on point. And he's been around for forever. Do you know what I mean? I'm fairly sure he's got the most fights in UFC history. He must have by now. Yeah, just outstanding. So obviously he took the win there. The next thing we need to get him, he needs to fight at UFC 300. He will be the only fighter to have fought at UFC 100, UFC 200, and UFC 300. I was fortunate enough to be at UFC 200 where he fought Takanori Gomi, and I think did he win that one? Let me just. I think he did win that one. Correct me in the comments. I can't bother to look it up. I'm fairly sure he won. In my head he won anyway, so he might not. But either way, he needs to fight at UFC 300. Now, he's thrown a couple of opponents out there. The Paul Felder fight, I like that. That's a good fight. That's a good matchup. Felder and Jim Miller, stylistically, that's got fireworks written all over it. It'll just be fun. It'll just be a fun fight. They're going to stand there. They're going to slug it out. Felder, I would probably give him the edge in the striking, but I would probably give Miller a real edge in the grappling. His grappling is top tier. And actually, in a dogfight, both of them will just exchange. And yeah, that would be a fun matchup. The other name that doesn't get thrown out, though, I mean, they're throwing Brock Lesnar out there, but I think that was a joke, obviously. Because they were talking about Lesnar also being at 100 and 200. I'll go back onto Lesnar shortly because I do think that UFC might need to get him back for one last ride. Yeah, Jim Miller versus Tony Ferguson is a fight that I would like to see. Because look, Tony still wants to keep on fighting, but you need to stop putting him against these young killers that are coming up to destroy him. Like Jim Miller and Tony Ferguson, they're both in a similar place in their career. They're both nearing the end. They're both legends of the sport. They're both fantastic at grappling, and they will both slug it out on the feet. They've both got somewhat unorthodox striking kind of methods. It would just be a fun fight. The loser likely hangs it up. The loser and the winner likely hangs it up. That would be a really fun retirement fight. Tony's still a big name. He's still a big sellable name. You need him on UFC 300. Put him against Jim Miller. Both of them retire at the end of it. Just put them in there so they can have some fun in front of on the biggest stage of the year. UFC 300 should be the biggest stage. I feel like they're struggling to fill it with some of the fights that they've been promising because UFC 200 was so good. It's going to be difficult to live up to that. When you look at the card that UFC 200 had, it's going to be difficult to top that, if I'm totally honest. But yeah, for me, I would love to see Jim Miller versus Tony Ferguson. That's a fight that I think should at least be considered. Then you've got Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker got dishwashed, as was in the comment section. Shout out DT Podcast, by the way. I need to get onto the DT Podcast soon because I really enjoy talking with my buddy Dave. He's got an excellent podcast called the DT Podcast. Go over and check that out. He talks to loads of different people. He's got interviews with Bas Rutten and Chuck Liddell on there. The guy's a somebody. Go and check him out. Give him a subscribe. Anyway. Yeah, so he commented saying, because I think I made the comment in the Casuals Guide, shout out to my Casuals Guide, I do one a week before the event, and it previews the entire fight card from start to finish, and I usually do it in between 15 and 20 minutes, because you haven't got 3 hours to sit and listen to somebody go through a card. I go through it in 15 to 20 minutes. I'll give you information on every single fighter, every single fight, and I make my picks. But it's difficult to pick accurate. Like I usually get about 3/4 right, there or thereabouts. Either way, it's designed for fun. It's designed so that you have more information on some of the fighters you might not be as familiar with on the fight, so that you get the most out of watching the pay-per-view. That's what the Casuals Guide is designed for, and I do one of those every week. So hit subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you can just check that out and just see if it adds to your viewing experience for the fight nights and for the numbered events. So in my Casuals Guide, I mentioned that I thought, and I still do think, Magomed Ankalaev, he's excellent. He is elite, but he's dull as dishwater. And yeah, the comment stands. In fact, I'm calling this episode "Walker Got Dishwashed" because man, he got dishwashed. I'll be honest, it was a competitive fight. Walker looked really good. The problem is he just leaves his chin out. Like, it's infuriating, but that's why we love him. He brings the chaos. He was hitting axe kicks, he was hitting question mark kicks, he was chewing up the inside leg like I thought that he would. He's a very big, very difficult puzzle to work out, but Ankalaev just caught him with a beautiful shot, and the one that he followed up with, like, against the cage just broke his nose instantly, and that was it. Like, you could tell straight, there was no complaint from Johnny Walker about that stoppage. It was a perfect stoppage again from Mr. Mark Goddard. I'd shout out Mark Goddard. He's such a brilliant referee, best in the business. Yeah, just I respect that dude a lot. I feel like whenever Mark Goddard's in there, adds some kind of, I don't know, legitimacy to the fights. He's become kind of almost a John McCarthy. He is that good. Anyway, I digress. Johnny Walker, it's sad to see him go down like that. You need to have him kind of work his way back. I don't know, maybe he goes to heavyweight. He's going to have to look at look. Walker has got massive potential, and I can't wait to see him realise it, because I think he will. He's a young guy. His brother's come into the UFC as well. He's undefeated, 11-0. He's a heavyweight. People are kind of are already hyping him up. But let's just see how he does against UFC competition first. That's what I always say. So yeah, unlucky for Johnny Walker. Look, I will watch Johnny Walker fight, win or lose, and that is something. Like, not every fighter has that. Magomed Ankalaev doesn't have that. I barely want to watch him win. I just think he's just dull. I think he's dull. I think he's there's something about him that just irks me. Just the way that he's like, crying about the Jan Blachowicz fight, saying, I am the champion, I won that fight. No, you didn't. You didn't win that fight. And he was, moaning about Johnny Walker, being scared and kind of, because he kneed him in the head in the last one, it got stopped. That was a language barrier thing. The doctor messed that one up. Like, Walker was ready to go. He said, yeah, I'm fine, I'm in the desert. And then the doctor was like, nope, calling it off. And it's like, that was not Johnny Walker's fault, FYI. But Magomed Ankalaev, he seems to bitch and moan quite a lot. I prefer the stoic Russians, the ones that don't say shit, the ones that just go in there and smash. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Hamzat. I think he talks too much of this. You know what I mean? Put him against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Find out. Fuck around, find out. I think that would happen. Anyway, I'm getting way off track here. Look, bottom line is, Ankalaev was very impressive. It was an impressive win, a really impressive finish. You have to put him in the title mix, but I think he gets Jiri first. I think it'll be Jiri Prochaska against Magomed Ankalaev first. That's a good fight. That's a good fight. I think that Jiri he's unorthodox enough to kind of catch Magomed Ankalaev. And I don't think you can put him straight in there against the title, because I think Pereira needs to fight Hill. Am I mad in saying that? That's the fight that I want to see. I want to see Jamal Hill fight Alex Pereira. That's the fight. That's the only fight I want to see at light heavyweight at the moment. I think Jamal Hill is nearly ready. I think, so far as I know, he had his surgery a while ago. He's rehabbed the injury. I think he's about ready. So that's the one that I would like to see next. But yeah, anyways, that's all I've got time for this week. What's the fight? Oh yeah, Strickland versus Duplessis next week. So I'll be doing a casuals guide for Strickland versus Duplessis. Hit subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you can watch the full card preview that I'm going to do on that one. I'll get some terrible bets out as well. They're just funny, terrible bets that I like to do. And until next time, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.